Good afternoon, everyone. I think if you're all here, please come down to the lab. We're going to start our keynote industry panel. How is everyone doing? How was lunch? Good?
Very nice.
Okay. So, yeah, please come down. Please come on in, take your seats. Well, I think we are excited here to start our afternoon with our industry keynote panel, charting the future AI, technology, and evolution of hospitality and tourism. So I want to invite our panel members right here. First, please come on in. Yeah. So let me do the introduction. This is quite an honor to have some of the leaders that I look up to in Vegas and high tech and HFTT. And I'm glad we are all here. So let me introduce, please welcome Shannon McCallum, Vice President of Hotel Operations at Resorts World Las Vegas. With over 35 years of leadership in hospitality across North America, Shannon oversees operations for three luxury hotel brands in Las Vegas: Hilton, Conrad, and Crockford's as well, all the three in Las Vegas. Now, Shannon's career actually spans across senior level roles at MGM Resorts, Fairmont Hotels, and Nolan Technology. She's driven innovation, elevated guest experiences, and led large-scale teams across the world. Shannon is recognized as one of the top industry leaders, serving on multiple boards, including Nevada Hotel and Lodging Association, Nevada Women's Chamber of Commerce, Hospitality Financial and Technology Professionals, where Shannon and I, we serve in the board, and we are part of the High Tech Advisory Council as well. And she was the co-chair of the 2024 Las Vegas Super Bowl host committee and was named one of the top 100 hospitality professionals in the US by Global Hospitality magazine. Recently, Shannon was included in the top 50 women in hospitality as well by Global Hospitality magazine. Shannon, it's a pleasure to have you here, as always. And thank you for accepting our invitation to be here. So let's start with Scott, and I'll tell you, you know, I look up to Scott. You know, when I first started high tech, I don't remember. I don't know whether you remember this, Scott. You were getting your Hall of Fame at the time, and I was there in the front row at high tech. And since then, I'll tell you, Scott and I we did serve in the committee and all, but he's one of the legends in in our organizations. So please welcome Scot Campbell, principal advisor. He's a principal advisor at Integrated Resort Advisors and a certified hospitality technology professional. With over 2 decades of leadership in hospitality, entertainment, and technology, Scott has driven innovation at major organizations like MGM Resorts, Wynn Resorts, Pinnacle Entertainment, and Live Nation. He played a pivotal role in launching the Las Vegas $8.5 billion city center, introducing groundbreaking in-room automation and centralized IT systems. Scott is an inductee of International Hospitality Technology Hall of Fame and a past president of HFTP Global Board. Beyond his tech expertise, he is deeply committed to community service as well, serving on an international board of Life Change International. And Scott, you've always been an inspiration. And thank you, Scott and Shannon, for being here. So a round of applause for Scott again. So Eric and I, we met actually on a project that we did for WVU and Boy. And so please welcome Eric Bowers for your name. And it was one of the sessions where we had a great, experience. And then, of course, I'm in West Virginia, Morgantown, here in Vegas. I wish we were here at the time. That's some of the great experimental learning through that project. But Eric is the Chief Technology Officer at Boyd Gaming. With over 30 years of experience as enterprise IT and more than 20 years in gaming and hospitality, Eric has led transformative technology initiatives across major organizations. His career actually includes leadership roles in international game technologies, MGM Resorts, and over a decade in Big Four consulting, where he managed large-scale systems for Fortune 500 companies. Eric holds dual degrees in computer science and economics from Northwestern University and brings a deep understanding of both technical innovation and strategic business alignment to the hospitality industry. Eric, it's a pleasure to have you here. So it's amazing that I can connect all the three here on a panel, and they all bring in so much of their expertise, but also their leadership here. So let me, again, we're talking AI. So for me, I'm one of those moderators. I want to kickstart with who are in the audience, right? Who are there in the audience? So if you're in the audience, can you all stand if you are a student? Some sort or the other. If you're a student, please stand. Grad or undergrad or wow, great. Yeah, a lot of students in here. That's awesome. So thank you for being here. Please. Yeah. So how many faculty are here? Whether it's a teaching, research, how many faculty are here? Oh, awesome. That's awesome. What about industry? How many of you all have industry experience? How many are have an industry experience in hospitality and tourism? Anybody who has industry experience? Wow, look at that. Look at that. That's great. And I see the team from Import is here. So they're industry represented as well. So if you all can say, their industry represented here as well. So that's awesome. So great diversity in the audience, right? So let's talk about to all our panelists. Shannon, I want to start with you. Uh, how do we see AI and emerging technologies currently impacting hospitality and tourism? So let's start with you. How it's impacting our hospitality and tourism from an AI standpoint?
There are hotels that have already embraced AI, and there's hotels that haven't yet, from what I can see. And I think there's so much change that's happening in our industry so quickly that it's really important for hoteliers to start to educate themselves by coming to events like this or going to high tech and really understanding. And I can talk from the operator standpoint because I'm not in the technology side. But I'm seeing great opportunities with the technology that's coming out to be able to streamline our businesses. For our property at Resorts World Las Vegas, we've been engaging with AI since we opened the property, and we had the benefit of being a newer property that opened up during COVID. And we started off being cashless, and then we started off with a digital concierge that our guests could text or they could call and speak to. And that technology has grown considerably in the last 4 years since I've been at the property. But I talked to other properties within the city, and there's only a few others, including Boyd, that have actually embraced digital concierge, digital voice, and there's a lot of opportunity to streamline our business. Pardon me. The last, I would say, 4 years since COVID, efficiencies have been really important because we saw such big changes in the way that people were traveling. And especially in this last 6 months in Las Vegas, there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily able to spend as much money. So for us in hospitality, we have to find ways to streamline. And one of those ways is to look to technology and embrace what's out there. For example, with our voice concierge and our digital concierge, in 2024, we were able to route 223,000 interactions through our digital concierge that were never escalated up to an individual, which accounts for about 59% of our calls and text messages at the hotel. That allows us to be able to streamline labor, and if we're having a shortage of labor, be able to operate and offer the best of customer service by streamlining that volume through digital means. But there's much more opportunity to come as well.
It's amazing. It's amazing to hear how much of that digital channels are being taken. 59%, that's a lot. And amazing that humans can focus on what they're good at now, right? Because all of these taken care of. Scott, from your domain, what do you think how AI is impacting already in our industry?
I think it's in an infancy stage. Everyone's running to AI. And I think the natural first place for it to show up is this digital concierge. Because you can train it relatively easy. And people are used to when they call on the phone. A lot of people, it's funny, we keep seeing sentiments coming back saying, well, at the end of a phone call, someone would say, well, thank you very much. Have a nice day, to the AI. They don't even realize that they're talking to a non-person, if you will, right? And I think that the next step, there's a few properties trying to work on the next step, which is taking that generative AI and being able to book automatic reservations through the systems, right? That's the next big level. And obviously that now is a whole different story when you're talking about revenue. But those initiatives are going on now. of people trying to accomplish that. And I think you're even trying to, Shannon. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Folks, Eric can answer some of the ideas. So Eric, from your, boy gaming standpoint, or what you're seeing as a trend from an AI, in your domain.
Yeah, I actually echo both what Scott and Shannon are saying. The first entry point, the kind of the obvious entry point for a lot of operators is that customer facing repetitive tasks that mostly humans do. And the most obvious place to put that is in the call center or in kind of a reservation set. So we are going down that reservation path. And the interesting thing about trying to train a model, we discussed we're in the infancy, so training models, we're in the infancy of learning how to train models too. So literally our phases are phases of a reservation process. They're literally, we can't do it all at once. So we implement one that says, hey, you know what, we're going to take the reservation making process and we're going to model that. And we get that out there. That takes a while to set it. So, and then we're going to take the cancellations process. We're going to model that, right? So I think a lot of the impact is learning how to build out those models in a more efficient way. And you guys have heard now that there's going to be AI models that actually train AI, right? And so I think we really need to get there to become efficient. Two other areas that I think we're impacting hospitality and tourism that's also impacting other industries as well, but access to information and data. So natural language querying is becoming just the way the world is used to working with data. No longer are spreadsheets or talented SQL personnel, if you will, really the thing to have as a resource, right? Now it's how do I train my employees to better prompt for my data, right? And so one of the areas that we're really focusing on is we're putting an NLQ layer across our entire lake house to start opening up information to whether it's an executive level or whether it's a non-technical procurement employee or HR employee or somebody who's just not associated with normally getting data sets the traditional way. Now we can get information in a quick and more language-driven pattern, right? And then the other thing that's kind of, I think, has hit us a little bit sideways, and again, this is very common probably across multiple industries, is our executive leadership obviously responds to the hype cycle just like every other executive leadership. So everybody's reacting, everybody's kind of looking at the media and trying to understand what to apart from that. We went through, it's funny, last year we went through a round where our president actually came on and said, hey, you know what, we have to shut down all AI, this is crazy, right? Shut down, and our response was, you understand the train has already left the building, right? You understand that employees have access to AI services. So if you're trying to contain your information, you're trying to contain the momentum in the company of embracing AI for job operations, it's almost like you're playing catch up at this point because everything has been out there for a while, and your team members are starting to use it without you as a leader really understanding how they're doing it, if it's the best choice, if it's improving their operations, or if they're getting information that's really relevant, or if there's a data privacy concern and they're trying to get a response from the prompt for some proprietary information that shouldn't be out there. So a lot of the governance and the responsible AI processes and so forth, we're scrambling to put those in place too. So that's another impact.
Awesome. Shannon, for that. Can I comment there, AJ?
Yes, of course.
So you're right on track, but I want to address the people that stood up that were students. Life happens in cycles, right? I was lucky enough 40 years ago to fall into a cycle of innovation, right? I believe that COVID has let us again define another cycle of innovation, and AI is what it's called. And you guys you're falling into the exact right cycle. Go after some of this language, right? Because And I'm an advisor, right? So I've kind of stepped aside and I go advise casinos and vendors and such on where I think things are going and to help them out. But what we're seeing is the real big job of the future is someone who knows how to turn the knobs on the language model, right? If you can learn that, that's a career maker for you right there. That takes you all the way up the ladder in a company pretty darn quick. If you can turn the knobs and say, well, the AI responded like this, but we really wanted it to respond like that. Let's turn the knob a little bit and tweak that in so it really becomes a customer service thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a great segue, Scott and Eric, because I have a thematic, like a theme, three themes in my deep dive. The first one is guest experience and personalization. Then we're going to go into operational efficiency and automation. Then workforce transformation. These are the three major themes we're going to focus on. So again, we are a people-centric business. Guest services, guest experience is the main area. So to your point on how we turn the knob, Scott, let's start with you. How is AI enhancing that personalization in guest services? And where we should start and where we can go from there from the personalization standpoint.
Well, I think that things like attrition, things like staff change, things like inconsistent messages, and staff just being people, right, is what we lived with our whole lives. And I think AI now is going to start enabling a memory that people don't have. They're going to start remembering what it really means to provide superior customer service. And they're going to learn how to do it better, right? And then I think the human being who interacts with that is just going to be blown away in the future, where they were just kind of satisfied in the present, if you will.
Awesome. Shannon, you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I would say because I come from a luxury hotel environment, the goal for us is to be able to have the guests choose their journey. And some guests, maybe they're staying with us for business, and they just want to be able to get a key, go to their room and not check in person. Or they want to talk to the AI and be able to get 4 towels up to their room without talking to anyone at 6 o'clock in the morning. But there are going to be other guests who want that interaction, that maybe it's their first time in Las Vegas and they've got 10 questions about where they want to go and what they should do while they're here. And we still want to be able to provide that personalized service to those guests, but not all guests these days want the same journey. And that's where AI and technology comes in, because that gives them the opportunity to choose their journey and not be forced to stand in a line at the front desk to check in, or not be forced to stay on a call queue when they could actually have their request taken care of right away. And I think that is where our business is going. And now talking about all different kinds of services at hotels. If you have a more streamlined model hotel that's less luxury, you might want to lean into this technology more, because the expectation of your guests is going to be different when they go and stay at a property that has less services. And I think that's what the beauty of this technology is, if you can tailor it to the services that you have at your property, and to be able to reap the rewards of being able to implement this in order to streamline your operation and really become the most efficient operation that you can financially.
Well, that's a great insight. I think it all depends on class and scale too, right? Upscale luxury, where high touch is the main area people are looking at. But if you go into upscale and mid-scale, the technology can take over most of the world. Everybody, what about gaming standpoint? What personalization are you seeing from an AI that's advanced here?
So Shannon has the fun of being able to do a luxury resort with multiple touch points, with full resort experience. We're regional operators. We have a few of them like that, but our demographic tends to be a little bit more towards the baby boomer age. So what that means is when we look at AI, we look at that from a standpoint of implementing it with human intervention, right? As far as customer facing. So a couple things that we focus on So if we were to take the contact center, or we were going to take hosts on the floor example, a couple examples are really next best action type of examples based on customer behavior. And what that does is it really, I mean, we pride ourselves on personalized experience, just like your customers that want to do that, that want that human interaction. But it really allows the host, or allows that contact person to come in with tools already built in, data already built into their mindset of knowing their customer, maybe even knowing more about the customer than the customer thinks that they know, right? So if you know their preferences or their past history, and it's all quickly summed up in real time, and it's presented on a mobile device. And so when they're going up to approach the customer, they have all these tools in hand to really have a very personalized conversation that and be able to drive that conversation through interests of the customer that they normally wouldn't have available. And so those conversations and the engagement become that much more intricate and that much more personal, because the customer is able to relate to that customer-facing person. So that's really, I think, where we're focused on is really trying to, in real time, provide, use AI to provide processing that allows up-to-the-minute information and gives kind of a suggestion, next best action for that engagement. Another example is in our contact center. As we have a project now where we're building live transcription integration into our contact center into a single pane of glass. That single pane of glass quickly translates the transcription, and as the customer, or as the contact agent is talking to the customer, not only going to see the transcription, but they'll also see next best actions as far as suggestions in the conversation of what they should say to the customer, or points of interest or points of information that they should suggest to the customer as that conversation is continuing on in real time.
And then just one at the end. I think that the future is that, let me ask a quick question if people just raise their hands. Are you using more Google search, or are you starting to trend towards GPT or Gemini or Siri or whatever? So more Gemini, Siri, more AI, or then more Google, typing it in the Google line. See what's happening? So think about that from a guest-facing hotelier perspective, right? We're going to move more of our direct business in the future to AI, because that's what people are searching into, right? And so is it smart to connect yourself to Gemini or to Siri or to whatever and let that booking just happen? And then what happens to your webpage? Does it just dry up? Or, what is the strategy going forward? I think that's one of the big challenges coming up.
No, Scott, I think you made a point where the adoption rates are so rapid. People are thinking about search. We've been searching for a while, and all of a sudden we are using ChatGPT and Copilot and you name it, Gemini. So, I mean, Eric, you also made a good point on the data side. So now let's talk about the ethical considerations. Now, when people are searching these different GPTs and LLMs and so on and so forth, what are the ethical considerations around data use, especially when we use AI and how it's going to impact our privacy, security, and so on and so forth? Let's start with Eric.
So we're focused on, we have a significant focus on data privacy, particularly with what I just mentioned about how we're trying to at least understand the landscape of our team members and what they're using from a SaaS-based AI service or capability. So we're backing into it a little bit as a corporation, saying, okay, as we start to, we're going to do two things. One word is we're going to attempt to rationalize amongst our employees, for example, rationalize the use of different capabilities. So in other words, if we've got a set of users that are used to GPT, we have a set of users used to Gemini, and we have a set of users that are, on our enterprise Copilot system. are they all doing the same thing? So in other words, do we need to rationalize and take a standard approach across our employee base for the use of prompting services like those, right? And consolidate onto one. We're trying to explore that idea because what that allows us to do from a data privacy perspective is understand how we can build corporate accounts in each of those different prompting services and start to build kind of a closed loop environment, not necessarily having every service have access to the internet and have access to our company data at the same time. So, we're taking kind of a bifurcated approach there. As far as other items, just going back to just standard data privacy, the whole AI acceleration has really started a whole subculture in our environment from a leadership perspective on data privacy, realizing data catalog, data categorization, and understanding lineage of data within our organization, because we know that that is combined with outside influences brought in from the prompting services to get better insights in your own company. We know that we need to put some guardrails around that really probably didn't exist or really didn't really need to accelerate when everybody was kind of in a closed loop environment, just regurgitating our same information over and over again. So a lot of those projects that you would actually consider more, in some ways, traditional data projects are now getting priority as well.
AJ, can I just add, now that people are using Siri and Gemini and ChatGPT in order to book their travel, this is really becoming an area of focus for our marketing teams, for our operational teams, our revenue teams, because we need to understand where are they pointing those bookings to get booked. Because if it's going through third parties, that's actually costing us commissions instead of going straight to our websites. So I've noticed in this last year, especially when we were at High Tech last year, Scott, that there's a lot of companies out there now that are coming up to help you to be able to guide where those bookings are going to go and direct them to your website. So you can avoid having possibly bookings that are coming through and really diversifying away from your direct channels. And we really need to be able to control those paths. And those companies that are successful doing that will be able to capture more of their revenue directly.
And then finally, as a past president of HFTP, I was asked last year to chair a digital responsibility committee. And so we spent a year with Hilton's, Marriott's, big names all over the world, and sat down and said, what does it really mean to be digitally responsible? Not only with your data, but just with everything digital, if you will. And so we kind of brought it to a document that's just been published at High Tech this year, that's on the HFTP website. And we're very proud of it. It will be a living document. As this world changes, it will also update itself. So at least there's a reference document now. Before, let's say, the government wants to put some regulation on it, right? So we're saying we're going to self-maintain ourselves. We're going to self-regulate, and we're going to make sure all these things are taken care of when it comes to this kind of digital technology.
No, that's a great initiative, Scott. And I think standardization in our industry is very important. And HFTP, I think, is one of them that's really setting the standards for data privacy, security, accounting, and so on and so forth. So now let's talk about operational efficiency, right? Automation. AI is enabling us to automate. Sometimes fully automate without human intervention as well, right? So now the operational efficiency is what everybody's looking for. And with staffing challenges, we still have staffing challenges in our industry. So now, what technologies are actually streamlining operations today, and how it's impacting our human touch, and how it's impacting our employees from an operational efficiency standpoint? So, Scott, you want to start again, and then
and I'll let Shannon is really going to articulate the operational efficiency.
Sure.
I'd like to start with something a little bizarre, which is the app I think somebody should build. I mean, I'm just so adamant that someone should build this app, and maybe it's you if you know how to build apps. But I feel like there should be an app that can analyze revenue and rates. I didn't push a button. Oh, there it is. That can analyze revenue and rates, and also analyze GRA or room service people. And then use an AI inside that app to say, okay, based on last year, 5 years of booking, what is my room occupancy going to be? And then go over into the staffing situation and go, how many GRAs do I need today? Right? To accomplish that based on AI's recommendation. Because I think there's a tremendous efficiency if someone can start working in that space. We have all the data. We just need someone to figure out how to use AI to analyze it and give, it's kind of like revenue management in the past, right? It's a recommendation, but it would be a total efficiency thing. Now I'll let Shannon tell you what's really going on.
Sure.
Well, I would call that workforce management.
Yeah.
And it's happening today. And I also would say the last 5 years have been very irregular. So, there would have to be a lot of thought that goes into standardizing it, making sure your data is reflective of where you're currently at. But moving on to the operational efficiencies, there's a lot of different ways that I'm seeing in the business that efficiencies are being inserted. Digital check-in is one of those things, allowing our guests to check in 24, 48 hours prior to arrival, get a Bluetooth key or an NFC key or an Apple Wallet key or a Google Wallet key. So there's a lot more options that are coming to bear, and it's a very exciting time for this technology. I know in Las Vegas with our volume hotels, and we've got 3,506 units at our property, and guests don't want to stand in line. That's not how they want to start their trip. So that's an easy way to focus on your operation and to better your guest experience. In addition, we've talked about the digital concierge for external guests, but also utilizing the AI tools in your back of house or your hiring process. So on our hiring website, we do have AI. Our AI can help guide prospective applicants to find appropriate job listings. And they can also check on their application to see where it is in the process without tying up our HR team in order to be able to give out this information. In addition, our IT team has a help desk. We use our AI internally to be able to assist our team members with simple tasks like password resets and things that are very well protected within our closed environment. So there's many different ways that this technology can be put into place. And I know that we talked about labor shortages, and that whenever the topic of AI comes up and automation, there's a lot of people that worry about losing their jobs or that technology is going to replace my job. But I truly feel like we're going to be creating new jobs that are going to be doing different things. So my team might not be answering the phone as much as they were before, but they may be analyzing the data of what kind of requests are needing to be escalated so that we can further hone our technology in order to make it better and more successful. So I do think that there's a lot of different ways in our business that we can continue to develop the technology out to supplement the guest experience and also the team member experience, and then grow new and different and more engaging goals for them to develop into.
Oh, that's a great point on new jobs, right? A new focus on jobs. I think that's pretty much leading hospitality. Nothing, sometimes we need to change much on our roles. But in AI, I think we should be able to really have superhumans, super skilled workers in our industry down the lane. That would be great for hospitality to set that standards way high with AI. Eric, do you have anything to share on, how you're balancing automation and human touch? So,
Yeah, so we're kind of like brother and sister properties. like we both went to CAT at the same time. We're doing automation in HR. Anyway, so just to kind of add some additional input to what Shannon said. So HR is absolutely a low-hanging fruit, servicing our team member with typical HR tasks that alleviates, that's operational efficiency there. We also did build a bot into our servicing platform, which is our support platform. And that allows, like Shannon said, some team member resets, password resets for team members. It allows you to order a laptop, pretty seamlessly without human intervention, those kind of things. We also did some RPA, which I know it's a lower level of AI, but it does sit in our accounting financing department, account finance department for invoice processing and that kind of thing. But that's more logical AI, so it's not, I wouldn't necessarily consider it something you have to build a model on top of or as a generative operation. One area that we're looking at is more on the customer-facing side is we do a lot of automation in our offer distribution, and over the years, it's been a lot of just based on kind of an analytical science versus an AI or a variable science. What we're looking at now, though, is how to make every guest, regardless of your tier level or your status with us, feel like they're being attended to, right? And our philosophy is we put a lot of attention into our top 20% of our entire guest population, our entire loyalty membership population, simply because they drive about 75 to 80% of our revenue, right? And so from a human touch perspective, we need to be involved, right? We've got a whole population that is either in incubation state to get to that tier level or status, or they're just coming on and understanding what our properties are like. That also need that attention. We just don't have the personnel to give them that personal attention. So we're looking at things where, like for example, we have a prototype now where we're using AI to do a facial recognition, not a facial recognition from a standpoint of your name and address, a facial recognition from having a digital footprint of your face, if you will, that you can match in multiple touch points. So over the course of the visit or a trip, you can understand every touch point that a customer has been to. You don't know their name necessarily, you don't know who they are, but you can start to engage with them digitally at some of those touch points so that they feel like, wow, Lloyd understands what I'm doing here, and they're giving me offers, and they're giving me incentives based on what I've done, not just as a standard customer. So those are some areas from a customer-facing perspective where we're trying to address that personalization, particularly for those customers that aren't fully recognized in our top tiers.
It's awesome. I mean, it's fascinating that how touch points are changing the way our industry, you skip the front desk, everything. Everybody can have the experience without having any personal touch. And that takes me to that question on what you said, Shannon, workforce fascination. How is technology changing the roles and skills in hospitality? Considering what we said earlier. So let's start with Shannon. How it's changing our roles and skills? And I think the part of the question where I want to also go is what strategies are needed for us to really upskill or reskill our workforce as well. Those are the two important things. How it's changing versus how we are really reskilling and upskilling our workforce, how we can do that better.
Well, I mentioned it just slightly earlier, but in our call center, that typically is an entry-level role where people might come from outside of the business and have their first role in hospitality. Now that we do have a digital assistant and we do have functionality that is escalating, it's training them on that technology. It's training them how to look at the data and using the analytics of what we're looking at in order to further build out our technology. And Eric mentioned you started one space and you might just take text message to your digital concierge. Then you may add voice, and you may add voice for internal guests, and then secondarily start to do it with external guests. Then move on to reservations, and then you segment it out by market segments. You're going to take maybe direct cash bookings first because they're more straightforward. Then you maybe add your cash casino offers because they are more like cash guests, but they have a promo offer that they can ask for, which makes it a very simple opportunity for us to be able to capture that volume with the technology. So all of these different channels and these decisions are based on the behavior of our guests. And our new roles are going to be to continue to analyze the guest behavior. What are they engaging with? What more can we expand on what they're doing? Is there a way to incorporate the weather forecast into our AI platform in order for our guests to know when the pools are closed because there's lightning within 7 miles? So I can think about because we do get a lot of storms in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
But all of those things offer us an additional opportunity to think of new ways that we can incorporate this technology in our business. And we're going to need people to help us to be able to look at it and test it and really bring on additional streams of data that we can look at. The other thing that we need to do as well is as you move towards agentic and your information is getting pulled from various sources, you need to keep your website up to date and make sure that when you have changes in hours of operation of your restaurants and the information that you have that your tool is pulling from is correct. And that's really important to have those extra eyes on those areas. So what used to be a call center individual who was answering phone calls and directing calls to different locations and helping answer questions has now become much more complicated, and they're going to be able to build those skills in order to be able to move their career into the future of technology.
Scott,
Well, I look at it and say, you know, from a workforce standpoint, we in the past, I think Eric will agree with me. In the past, we haven't really dealt with technology in the hotel industry. It's more archaeology. We have, you know, there are still systems up and down the strip that are archaeological. They really are. And so now you're going to just swap an AI on top of it. And I think what it means is we're going to take a front desk clerk who's used to green screen check-in and move them into a whole new space. So from a workforce management standpoint, we have to really, really focus on retraining, re-understanding, because the world is catching on to AI, but we need to teach them how to do that in a hotel space. That's kind of my take on workforce management. I keep telling people in different casinos up and down the strip, start training now before you get rid of the archaeology, so they'll be ready for it when you get there.
that's a great insight. Eric, do you have anything to share from that standpoint?
So Shannon touched a little bit on this too. She mentioned the word agentic, right? And that's kind of the hot thing right now. And the hot thing, where that comes from then, I mean, we've all been building agents for a while since we've been dealing with this AI piece, but really, you know, when I hear the word agentic, that means that we've got channels of AI development, right? And we've got models that are applying to different areas of our business. And over time, there is no one solution, right? And so we know that there's going to be agentic layers, if you will, that need to access and service from multiple channels that we've built over time, right? And so I think when you look at the talent that we need from a workforce perspective, it's really understanding those business verticals and how to cross-utilize that. Not even just from a technology perspective, just understanding from a data perspective, if you were to cross-utilize it, what would that agent look like, and what would be the endpoint that would service? What type of team member would that service, or what type of customer would that service? So I think that's going to be a key skill set, I think, from the side right now. From the front-facing perspective, Scott touched upon it. We have to help our employees understand how to complement AI, not to rely on 100%. And I think there's going to be a transition there, and this is beyond just, hey, AI is going to replace my position, job. Because I think we're kind of past that a little bit with a lot of our employees. But now it's like, hey, you could do more with AI yourself by complementing it, by adding to it, rather than just saying, well, this is what AI told me, so I'm just going to regurgitate it to the customer. Now you have to train them to understand how to go above and beyond what AI is supplementing their knowledge with, to really provide that full service experience.
A lot of quotes there for those people watching on LinkedIn. You start tagging it in the comments, you know. Yeah. Good job.
No, awesome. No, I mean, this is an academic conference, and there's a lot of faculty teaching, doing research. What do you think the hospitality programs or academic institutions should be doing research? You know, if you can share, like as leaders, what do you want faculty to teach? What do you want faculty to do research? That's going to be impactful for your work, impactful for your organizations. So can you share some of those, low-hanging fruit that, hey, we struggle with this, we struggle with these areas. If somebody can do research, if somebody can teach this, that would be great. So is there any suggestions for some of the faculty here? Or if you want to start, or you can start. Go ahead.
Okay, so my wife watches CNBC all day, right? And I love the commentators on CNBC because they're talking about something they have no idea, right? But they know all the buzzwords and how it affects stocks and this and that, right? So I think that's absolutely hilarious. But I think what we want to teach is how, not necessarily how to check someone in, not necessarily how to clean a room or answer a phone. It's more about the real value is going to come in the future from someone who understands how the business operates and translate that into what we want the AI to be. Because, if I go back to CMC, their big thing is, oh, if you teach AI the wrong thing, then the world's going to come to an end, right? So, and there's something to be said for that. I mean, that's obviously drastic over exaggeration, but there's something to be said for that. So what I think we really need are people coming into the workforce who have a degree and they can figure out, okay, what is that check-in, from the parking lot to the guest room? What does that really look like? And how can we train our models to make a better experience from the parking lot to the bed? And that's what I would be looking for.
That's a cool insight. Shannon?
I would just say that the educational institutes need to be very closely aligned with the operators that are actually in the business and what they're working on. And many of our universities are, I know locally here with UNLV, there's a lot of interaction with classrooms and professionals going into the classroom to really talk about what they're doing. And that really needs to continue to make sure that we're all on the same page, because when people are graduating and they're coming into the hotels, you want them to have an accurate view of what are the current struggles, what are we working on to fix, how are we using technology to focus on that, and how can you, with your education, help us to continue to move that forward?
I would echo both of them. It's all about use case development. It's funny, I tell our business, and even our executive leadership, that, hey, we're behind in AI. And I said, we're only behind in AI if we have a problem to solve that involves AI, or that could involve AI. Otherwise, we're not behind, because we're not going to get in there for the sake of getting in there, right? And so really, to echo what both of they've said, it's all about use case development. It's all about coming out and understanding business operations and really solving a problem, and then coming back and saying, oh, you know what? There's components from an AI perspective that can add to solving this problem. There's a process that can be driven by an AI capability that can solve this problem. And that's where we're going to see the value. It's interesting. I think Gartner did some, they do their typical surveys over the past couple of years, and a lot of what's coming back, at least in the last couple of years, when they survey CEOs that have decided to invest into AI, invest in AI in their company, within their companies, and they're asked if they've seen an ROI from this investment, and really the generic answer is less than 30%, right? And so having the talent to be able to project the measurement of that ROI in solving that problem, if you add AI on top of it, that's really going to be the magic, right? Because we're not there yet. We're not there across the industry. We're not there. We're jumping into using AI in different pieces of our operation. But at the end of the day, when you look back and say, well, I had the infrastructure for that cost X, I had to bring some additional resources in, and I'm trying to understand how that analytics really kind of changed my business strategy. We're not there yet, right? And so that's where we need help.
That's great. So I know audience have a lot of questions. I want to make sure we have a lot of time for Q&A. But I want to wrap up with one question for each of the panel members. If you have one bold prediction or hope that you have for the future of tech in hospitality and tourism? What is that? What do you want to really see, like one bold prediction on AI, or hope that you see, like, a future of tech in our hospitality and industry that you would like to see from your leadership standpoint? Shannon, we go with you first.
Well, I'm an operator and I would hope to see other operators be able to educate themselves on the technology that's coming into our industry, because a lot of times we rely on our technical teams to make those decisions. But I think as an operator, you can understand more truly how it's going to impact your business and your guest experience. And secondarily, I hope to see a lot of these hotels start to incorporate this technology, yet still keep the personalization in our guest experience. Because I think we never want to lose the personalization and the building of loyalty with our guests. And that's going to be critical to the success of hospitality moving ahead.
Scott?
I think the wow, right? It's so funny, for 25 or 30 years, we've all been saying, if we knew our customer better and we knew that they wanted a bottle of champagne and we could preemptively bring that bottle of champagne to the table, or if we knew that they were there for the man to ask the woman to marry him, right? What could we do preemptively to create a wow, right? We never had any of that data. We could never correlate that data. We could never make those kind of wows happen. I want to see in the future, we're getting to the data now, and we're getting to the AI, which can start to predictively look at things differently. Can we, 5 years in the future, start creating those wows where we can kind of preemptively create an experience that just wows a customer? That's me.
That's a wow answer, Scott, right there.
My biggest thing from an operator perspective as well is, my concern is that, especially in the hospitality and gaming space, it's kind of alluded to this. I get worried that we are losing ground with the rest of the world and what the consumer expects, or even what is considered standard for the consumer's perspective in their life outside of the gaming industry from a digital perspective. So I worry about the gaming industry and hospitality industry keeping up with those expectations, whether it's retail out, or whether it's food and beverage, or whether it's simply getting on your, it's the Amazon experience that you're constantly chasing, it's a Starbucks experience you're constantly chasing. How can we how can we leverage AI to help keep pace? Because we've got a lot. The gaming industry is interesting. I think, hospitality, particularly in the casino space, or fully integrated resort, is because we have all those aspects to track, right? We've got a food and beverage aspect of our customers. We've got a retail aspect. We've got a gaming, obviously, events. We try and understand what they wear and what they like and where they go. So we're trying to address multiple touch points that a lot of industries just are focused on one single channel of touch points, right? And so we need AI to cover that breadth. To Scott's point, if data is available, we need them to cover that breadth of their life, essentially in an integrated resort experience, because we can't track all those channels anymore as fast as they need to be.
Those are great. Those are great insights. So let me introduce to Dr. Katrina Beresina to take over from here on the Q&A, because I know that the Q&A from a keynote was long and engaging. So I want to make sure everybody have questions. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. But I'll give to Dr. Katrina Beresina to coordinate the Q&A session.
Katarina!
Hello. So everyone, thank you so much, AJ, for leading the panel. And now I have the pleasure of facilitating the questions. So you all had a wonderful panelists and heard their opinions. So if you have any questions for them, the floor is now open, and I will, yes, sure.
Thank you for wonderful industry panel. I am Bobur Sofil. I'm from Uzbekistan. Now, I am coming from Wyoming University as a visiting professor. So I am professor and also industry member, and I run hotel. So today, according to your presentations and discussion, I found that mostly you have been talking about using artificial intelligence by hotels, by, let's say, supporters of service. But what do you think about individual tourists? In developing countries, mostly we have been receiving in Central Asia individual tourists. They're booking and they're traveling, but they don't know how to travel by themselves. They can use GPT, they can use different, let's say, artificial intelligence tools, but still in developing countries, in some cases, there are not enough resources to organize kind of a platforms by, let's say, destination management organizations. What do you think? How they can solve or how they can tackle this issue? Are there some examples from US that developing countries can use in order to facilitate, let's say, facilities or services for individual tourists? Because in some cases, when they go there, still Wi-Fi could be problem, information could be not vivid, so they can fail, let's say, they can be feel lost, and people cannot speak in their languages. So these kind of facilities are so many, so the issues are so many. So what are your answers as a industry member? How they could be kind of a solution for this? Thank you one more time for your wonderful response.
At least you started with an easy question. Have the country buy a bunch of those robots. That was amazing this morning. I just want to say that. And I'm thinking on the rest of your questions. So I'll hand it to Shannon and embarrass us.
I would just say travel is so much easier for international people than it ever has been. I remember thinking my first time that I visited Asia that I wouldn't know how to speak the language and I wouldn't be able to get around. And at that point, there wasn't translation services that I had on my phone. So when I think about how far we've come from that trip that I made overseas, where I was so worried that I'd get lost and I wouldn't be able to communicate with anyone, now our front desk don't need to worry about being able to communicate with someone who's speaking another language. Our team members actually carry their phones with them. We have technology on their phones that they use for work. They can use their chat GPT and their phone in order to engage and translate with guests at the front desk. I've been in the industry so long, I remember having to call a translation line and hope that they had someone there that spoke the language of the guest that was standing in front of me. I also do think that there's now online travel agency services in the countries where you're going to, and you don't need to have a travel agent. That's where you are. You can actually engage with someone international to the destination that you're going to in order to be able to set up your trip ahead of time. So I do think that we've got so many more tools to our disposal than we ever had, and traveling to international destinations has gotten easier. And it's just understanding that we've got different demographics. And this is what Eric was talking about. So our younger generation, of course, is more engaged with AI. They understand the tools that are there. But we still have a lot of people that are in the baby boomer, era of travel. And I think of my parents, and they're not going to engage like that. So they still use a travel agent in order to help them navigate from their home country in order to be able to get all of their details organized. So even if you're not using AI, I think that you still have the ability to set up, a significant amount of your travel ahead of time to clear some of those barriers to success.
Yeah, and just to touch on, so Shannon did a great job as far as talking about setting up the travel, and then, some of the things that we consider when we talk about a virtual assistant that's assigned to you during your trip, right? And it's a multilingual assistant that, you understand how, we all understand how ChatGPT built its own model based on how you inquire in over the history of your inquiry and prompts and so forth. The same can be said for a virtual assistant that's assigned to you, a multilingual virtual assistant that operates in the fashion and accepts prompts during your trip. But it also knows, it's also integrated with your itinerary management system. So all the touch points that we have available for our trip integrates into that virtual assistant. It understands your pattern as you make the trip, and uses that for kind of next best action or suggestions. So it's interactive, as well as just being just kind of an itinerary management. Hey, what's next on my trip? That kind of thing. So I think those are the things that we're thinking about. Because again, going back to the fact that everybody kind of needs a personalized experience, and we don't have the personnel to address everybody.
That would be fabulous, by the way. Thank you.
Question.
Thank you so much for your insightful comments. We have the next question.
Thank you so much for the great panel and discussion. I am from Southern Utah University. My name is Sijuni and I teach hospitality. So we actually had a pleasure of visiting Croxford and Resort World, taking a group of students there. So my question is, at the beginning of the panel, you kind of mentioned about providing trainings to C-levels and then probably your employees on understanding how to navigate around AI. And I was hoping that you can dive a little deeper and talk about some thoughts that you have, what to provide more specifically to your employees and hope that they would understand.
So we had talked we had mentioned a little bit about kind of training in the station, and then our team members having access to these AI capabilities and becoming used to. We actually identified over 120 uses of different forms of AI capabilities that are SaaS-based offerings in our environment prior to us even starting governance around AI. And this was all from our team members. And so the training comes not necessarily around how to use the capability, but how to understand how that capability adds to your daily routine, or adds to your operational efficiency as a team member. And so I think that's where the focus is the training is how to complement and where to complement your job and your job duties with an AI capability, whatever that is. And that's really going to be our focus versus more so than picking a particular technology and using that first and foremost. First and foremost is where do we complement your daily routine with that, right? From an executive perspective, though, I mentioned earlier, we're fighting the hype cycle every day with the executives. So really, and that training comes at a much higher level. And really, it starts with just familiarizing them with the aspects of how AI can apply to their business and what category that fits into, and really educating them on. You'll find a lot of leadership that looks at AI and says, "This is great. I want to jump right into reducing it. That's the first thing I can do with AI," and it's not. It's operational efficiencies. It's getting an acceptance from a cultural perspective at a leadership level that, you know what, we're going to chip away at this. So it's really training them about what AI, the phases that AI brings to the table, right? So you give a perfect example. I had one executive that said, "Well, so they're going to they'll do their job more efficiently." We have a project that with our communications department that they had a request to say, "Hey, you know what? I write these press releases every week on all these customers across all our properties. They get bonuses, right? Or they get they win the jackpots, right? Each jurisdiction requires you to write the same press release, but you have to word it differently every time, or else they start to pull back on publishing, right? And so there's a request to use, that's a low-hanging fruit, generative AI. Let's figure out how to produce those in a timely fashion. And our executive team said, "Well, this is great. So does that mean everybody's going to go home earlier because they're not having to spend as much time doing it?" But the time that they were spent doing it was tedious time. It wasn't making use of a true communications analyst job, right? So I think that part of training the executives is really about helping them understand that that efficiency leads to allowing people to use their, use their brains and what they were hired for, right? Versus, hey, we're just going to eliminate headcount because this bot's going to take care of work every jobs.
And when you look at this, you have to look at problems and how to solve them. An unnamed person at an unnamed property working in an unnamed accounting department, they were tasked with a very simple job, which was take the daily accounting sheet and categorize it and analyze it and write me a report. So they thought, I'll upload this company data to ChatGPT and have it analyze it for me. Beautiful report. They were fired. Right? Education is about what you should and should not do with these public tools specifically. And then it's all about governing, protecting your own data and actually thinking about it before saying, hey, can you analyze this for me?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Question. My question is like a little bit different. I teach hospitality courses in Colorado Mesa University. My students, most of them are like, I always push them, to become part of hospitality tech company, or to work in the IT company. Is a little bit different. My thing is that they all want to work in the event management department. So how can you relate it? Because I cannot relate it. It's not related with the artificial intelligence. Starting from the artificial intelligence, we need to have some kind of change of mind. How we can effectively that this is not only the operation side. This is the commercial side of the business. There is revenue management. There is also the IT companies. Like maybe if you need to do blue ocean strategy, like there is the red ocean and the blue ocean. Red ocean is the operations. People are fighting each other, but the one that they see the much is the commercial side of the business. It's not related with artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is to use it, but we need to as an industry, we need to attack all the prospective students that this is a commercial business. This is a commercial business. There's an opportunity there. So how can we bring it together?
Well, I think early on, I kind of made a comment that said, the greenfield job of the future is a business/IT person who can turn the knobs. Remember, we were talking about that, to optimize what is AI and beyond. I think that's there. And if you're a student going for a degree and you're looking to get into a hospitality technology field, there it is. There it is, because nobody else is doing it, right? And every company, small and big, are going to value someone with those skills going forward. Either that, or you're just going to go in and get a hospitality degree and work in the front desk. You know what I mean? That's the way I would present it, right? There's a huge future there if you can latch on to that.
I would just say, kind of just to add on what Scott said, every aspect of our business will have an AI component within the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So if you want to be creative, going back to our use case example, get into whatever vertical interests you from a business operations perspective, and you will have the opportunity to apply that type of capability in the near future. And you may have the opportunity actually to create that idea yourself. We are so in infancy in every aspect. If you look at the different operational verticals and applying AI to each operation vertical, we're in the infancy of everything. We all talk about data. Yes, data analytics, maybe that's a little bit ahead. Operational aspects, though, of our business, no, it's green. It's like Scott said, it's an open checkbook right now.
I would just add from an operational standpoint that I had my director of housekeeping oversee an 8-system technology transformation earlier this year. So in his background is front office, but he was in housekeeping, and a lot of people look at him with this title and they're like, they don't understand why he's running this technology transformation. It's because he had deep knowledge of the operational components of the business and understood the problem that we were trying to fix. And he did an excellent job. Secondarily, at the front desk, we're finding ways to include bots in order to be able to take away a lot of manual work or routing. So if someone comes in and their promotion includes food and beverage credit or have other routing needs, instead of us having to have someone sit with a list of 100 rooms that need to be dealt with, they're working with our IT team in order to create bots in order to be able to automate. So just like Eric said, we're working on all different components of our business to see how we can add those efficiencies, not just in our call center or not just through messaging or not just HR, but for every single thing. And a lot of it is in the background, but it's necessary so that we can free up our people to be spending time with the guests instead of doing manual tasks and back offices.
Okay.
Thank you so much for all these examples and insights. If our panelists are fine, maybe we can take one more question.
Thank you for this amazing discussion. Thank you for coming. My name is Ganna. I came from Europe. We have a digital startup in Sweden, and we are working on data integration, qualitative marketing data and customer behavior with accounting set of controls for the purpose of continuous data auditing and customer-centric profitability analytics. I have 3 questions. Like individual questions to each of the panelists, and I'd like to ask Eric. You mentioned this facial recognition stage on the reaction of customer. I didn't really understand the concept. Are you going to use gadgets for that and so on? If you could elaborate on that a bit more, would be interesting. And Shannon, I'm interested, how in luxury hospitality, how do you survey your customers? Because it's not the approach that you would use in lower cost properties. So how do you collect the data on customer satisfaction and experience post stay? And for Scott, I have a question. You mentioned your app. I'm with you. I feel you. But and generally, this metrics that you listed, it's all in the systems, and you're predicting occupancy more or less. So, what is the indicator of effectiveness of these people that you actually put on the floor and in operations? Because if we simply analyze historical data, so how are we going to make an improvement?
Very smart. One question, but 3 questions.
Yes, it's 3 questions in the one. Yes, so Eric, let's start with you and facial recognition.
Yes, so the prototype entails a small camera device at critical touch points, right? So engagement, right? But those critical touch points of engagement will also have some sort of ability to have a digital interaction with the customer, right? And so our obviously points of engagement are slot machines, right? Others are ATMs, kiosks, other redemption or card printing machines, those kind of things. So everywhere that the customer will engage with us, even from a standpoint of racing sports kiosks and that kind of thing. And so the idea is that, and the reason that we can work with the regulators on this, because obviously we're a highly regulated industry, is that we're not doing facial recognition for the sake of attaching PII information to the fingerprint or to the face print. It's merely a matter of saying, look, I'm going to match this face print to multiple times or to multiple aspects of multiple positions in my casino, and at some point, it's going to trigger it's going to trigger a configurated offer or configurated engagement to say, you've done this 4 times, you've done this 5 times. The next time that you hit this particular touch point, you're going to get an automated engagement. And that engagement won't necessarily have your name or that kind of thing, but it will take all the past history of what you've done and say, hey, we see that you've done X and Y and Z. How about if we offer you this, or how about if we, point you in this direction?
So guest survey. It's really important for us to be able to gather information from our guests about their stay satisfaction. There's a number of ways that we do that. We do engage with a traditional system like Medallion or Qualtrics, and that provides us with about 6,000 surveys a month, feedback on our property. That might sound like a lot, but again, we've got a large hotel and we've got over 55 restaurants and lounges at our property. So it's our goal to try to collect as much information as we can. Secondarily, we do have our AI digital concierge. When our guests arrive, send out a text message to our guests who have a mobile number on file, which allows us to send out a mid-stay survey. And they can ask, the guest how their stay experience has been so far, how was their check-in, and also educate our guests on how they can interact with our digital agent during their stay, whether they want to make a dinner reservation, they want to book a cabana at the pool, or if they have any questions, they can reach out about the property.
Thank you. So the luxury is not an obstacle on collecting.
Not at all. And we also partner with Hilton, and our Hilton partners also send out an additional survey to our guests as well from the Hilton perspective to make sure that we capture any guests who might have feedback that we need to address, or even capture those wonderful comments about our team members that we can use for recognition.
There's another app to write. I want to write a personal app that says, when I get a survey, I would say, hey, Scott's app, I really like the hotel. Would you fill out the survey for me? Or I didn't have a good time. Would you fill out the survey for me? I think that would be fun too. Now I need to repeat my question because I've been focused on all of their answers. So
Yeah, so the question was, you mentioned the app, like based on the occupancy, on the people on the floor, and how can we predict staff scheduling for based on the past 5 years of data?
Yeah.
And my question was, like the variables that you are mentioning, and it's more or less operational, it's like statistical. So how do you know that this staff scheduling 5 years past was efficient or effective? So.
And so that's the hard part, right? I would lean more towards what was our occupancy, right? Because other than COVID and revenues or revenge spending for a couple of years, now we're kind of getting back into the norm, if you will. So you might have had to go back and do 17, 18, 19, and then 20, 23, 24 kind of thing, finding these trends. Shannon knows. She knows 2 months in advance what week is going to be light and what week's going to be heavy, right? Just based on all the data that Shannon collects. Because she has a lot of data, right? Yeah.
I'll just add as well, it's not just back-facing, we also have to look forward-facing because we have conventions that come every year. We have conventions that come every other year or every 3 years. So we also look at that predictive information that we get in the forward forecast. And we correlate that with the past trends in order to get a more accurate read on what our workforce management schedule should do. We also look at short-term trending, like this year in the summer. Typically, summers in Las Vegas are a bit quieter for us because it's so hot. Conventions aren't popular in the middle of the summer. Families are on vacation. So we know that it's going to be quiet. But, also there's factors outside of Las Vegas that could create changes in travel. Like whether international travel is coming to the US this year in the same way that it did last year. So we focus on incorporating additional statistics like through the LBCC, which is our Las Vegas Convention Visitors Bureau. Also looking at the pickup of their future events, looking to see if they're on par to prior years. And all of that information would get correlated into Scott's app in order to be able to give us good workforce information.
Yeah, there you go. She answered my question. Good job.
Well, thank you all so much. And I think that the topic of our conversation today for charting the future has really been uncovered by all of your examples and insights. And our time together flew by very quickly with the engaging conversation with Ajay in the beginning and also all questions from the audience that we had today. So as we are wrapping up, I just wanted to ask you if you have any final thoughts on AI and future of hospitality industry, anything else that you want to share in closing of this session today?
I would just like to reiterate again, for students, for academia leaders, you know, one of the things, like for instance, you look at Blackfire here, one of the things that we really are trying to emphasize, and it involves AI, right? AI is going to be robotics, you name it, AI, other technologies. Take advantage of this crossover opportunities between corporations and the world of academia, and really, you know, encourage your students to get involved in that and understand that, you know, that the transition to corporate, you know, whether it's US or Europe, the transition to the corporate sector, and the ability to bring your ideas forward in the corporate sector, it's really going to be an open playing field over the next 5 to 10 years. We have not solved this, and those of us that have been in the industry for a while, we think we have imaginative minds, but we've also been conformed without us knowing it, right? And so, you know, we really encourage these type of environments and love the mixing of academia and corporate strategy.
I would agree and support what Eric said. I think the continued collaboration between academia and the operations and the industry is so critical to the future. I know there's often a lot of studies that are done that maybe the operators never get to read. So making those more available, because I have to be honest, we're so busy in our day-to-day, we don't get a chance to go out and look for those. So it has to be close in collaboration, continue with having operators come into the classroom and talk about the day-to-day and what the technology looks like that we're looking at today. But then conversely, bring the students to the property as well, so that they can understand what's going on in the operation. And I think that will close the gap that we've seen sometimes in the past, which is really helpful so that students are prepared when they get to the workplace and they know where their education is going to be able to help to contribute to the success of the job that they take on.
And for me, I mentioned the world moves in cycles. I started my IT career at when the Mirage Hotel was just built. And inside their business systems, they ran on tandem mainframes, AS400s, and RIS 6000s. There were 9 IBM PCs in the entire company when I joined the company. And in hindsight, the ride through developing and deploying PCs everywhere and converting all the systems to an Intel platform and the optimization and the revenue we made where we couldn't have made it before because of all the systems, that was just a ride in hindsight. I believe that AI is about to be a 10 times bigger ride, right? 10 times bigger ride. And it's just beginning. And so the future is bright. Jump in.
Thank you so much. Yes, that's a great closing for the future of the hospitality and tourism industry. And I would like to ask everyone to thank Eric, Shannon, and Scott for being here with us today and for sharing your examples and time and wisdom with us. Thank you. For our next steps, we have